and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Wakefield. Here. Knutson.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Bruck. Here. Hall.
Here.
All right, first up is citizen comments. It is your opportunity. Anybody in attendance that would like to make a comment on anything that is not on tonight's agenda, it's your opportunity to talk about things that are relative to pertains to the city. So if you do have a comment, please come to the podium, identify yourself and your address, and try to make your comments brief. Please try not to repeat other people's comments. Having said that, does anybody have a comment? Any comments? Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. We have a presentation tonight from Triland Properties LLC on annexation concept development proposal. Richard, how you doing?
I'm better if I can walk around than if I have to stand behind a podium. So my name is Richard Doobie. I'm the owner of a 45-year-old development company out of Chicago, Illinois. And I'm here today to talk about the property on the northeast corner of I-94 in Carmichael Road, which is owned by Double Play Investments. Jim Anderson, the managing director, is here tonight with me, as is Debbie Erickson, and Grady, I think, is also here. So members of the ownership group are in the audience also, and if I need some help, I can avail myself of some of their history, perhaps. But what I would like to do is just tell you that over the 45 years, our company has developed 70 major shopping centers in 8 states around the Midwest and Southeast. It's about $700 million worth of investment. We always have supermarkets as our anchor tenant. That's what we have done for all those years. I was put through school by a major supermarket company out of Chicago who taught me the real estate business, and after a number of years with them, I said big corporate life wasn't for me, so I started my own business. With that said, let me just draw your attention to the 2 site plans that are sitting up here on the easels. The plan over here to the left, I'll explain to you what it is as it relates to the development of the project. The plan on the right is some details that I think are germane to this plan so that you have a bit of an understanding why we did what we did. So without any further avail, on the north side, that's the new Hudson property, Hudson Physicians Building that opened about a year ago now, and the new traffic signal at Carmichael Road to the entrance at the traffic circle that's been installed at the property. Everything that you see to the south of that, to the frontage road and out to the east, is the 30 acres of the Double Play Investments property. What we have shown on that plan is plus or minus 200,000 square feet of a combination of retail and medical office. So this project started by a major supermarket company putting us onto the assignment of finding the right site in Hudson and not on the south side of I-94. Their criteria was they had to be on the north side of Interstate 94 for a whole host of reasons, but not the least of which is the traffic congestion on the south side, in a place more convenient for those that live to the north to come to the supermarket. With that said, that was the first part of the puzzle that we put together. We then went and visited with Matt Brandt from Hudson Physicians, and that building hadn't been quite opened yet. I've been around Hudson for about 2.5 years looking for the right piece of real estate. And then Jim Anderson wasn't the easiest guy to negotiate with, so that took a bit of a time too to get that contract signed with him. But with that said, we visited with Matt Brandt, and in fact I took Jim with me at that time. And Matt was very interested in continuing to expand his medical campus, even though he hadn't opened this 160,000-foot building. He had other doctor uses, cancer uses, and other medical disciplines that he could fill quite a bit of space with additional users and expand the campus. One of his criteria was that he wanted a further exposure to I-94. He wanted to be more prevalent to the traffic traveling on that interstate. So part of how we set this plan up was to, as you can see, build the detention pond down here on the south, which allows the visibility up to his two buildings. And let me take you through this plan perhaps relatively quickly. Carmichael Road, that's an 80,000-foot supermarket. It's a major supermarket chain out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, of which it will be unnamed for tonight. And then there are two-story. Each one of these buildings is 40,000 square feet that are medical uses. So there's 80,000 feet of medical, 80,000 feet of supermarket space, approximately 20,000 feet of small stores to the south towards I-94, and then 4 out parcels on the remaining part of the double play property, of which those 4 out parcels would be some type of quick service restaurant or other smaller retail users that would need the convenience of getting in and getting out of that particular area. So again, it's approximately 200,000 feet. And before we developed this plan, we spent about 4 months with AmCon and Kimley Horn. That's the same group that had put together the Hudson Physicians Building. So we wanted to have local guys that knew the local dirt and the local process of doing things here in Hudson. So what they developed for us was the plan that you're looking at, which again is a concept plan. There's clearly room here that if there's other modifications that need to be made to the plan, that's part of why we're here this evening, is to understand from the city council if this is a project that they would like to pursue, and at that point, how we move it forward with getting a cooperative and collaborative effort with the city on the right plan that would go forward. So the plan that you see here, in addition to the site plan, also dealt with elevations, because when we backed the supermarket up to Carmichael Road, we did it in a way where this plan over here to my right in red lifts elevations of the streets. In blue, that's the elevations of the floor plan or the floors of the stores. So in the case, for example, of the supermarket anchor, this is at 860, and the road out here is at 871. So you're roughly 11 feet lower than Carmichael Road. And the purpose for that is so when the trailer trucks are delivering to the supermarket, they won't be seen from Carmichael Road. They will be below the road and you won't be able to see them. And when we developed this entire scheme, part of the double play property difficulty is that it has a slope from west to east of 45 feet and a slope from north to south of 60 feet. So when you have to deal with parking lots that you need relatively flat parking for a supermarket so you don't have the runaway supermarket carts denting all the cars in the parking lot, the way we developed the plan was not to have any dirt brought in or any dirt taken off. So the plan balances the way we did it. And then we put the medical campus on the east side for 2 reasons. A, so that the detention area that we developed to the south, and all the utilities have been preliminarily designed with this plan, including detention, and how to get wastewater then back up to Carmichael Road, which there will be a series of pumps to get that done. But with that said, underneath those medical buildings will be some parking lot underneath the buildings. So part of the parking is at surface and part of the parking is below the buildings. And so what we are trying to accomplish again tonight is to understand if the city council would like to pursue this project going forward. And that's really where we need to be, or at least why I'm here tonight to present the plan to each of you. And I'd like to take any questions you may have that have arisen.
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, has the grocer done any marketing studies to make sure that Hudson is large enough to support one more full-service grocery store with Festival Foods coming in?
Yes. Festival Foods was part of the, when we were coming here 2.5 years ago when this started, Festival was also already here nosing around. They hadn't selected the property yet, but yes, we have.
So the area is large enough to
It's
support
just,
three
yes, because of how
full-service?
far it pulls, I mean, there's no major supermarkets in River Falls either at the moment. So you've got the River Falls population that comes up here, and you have a very high-volume county market sitting over on the south side of I-94.
Then the other question is, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation had been talking about designing that intersection of 94 and Carmichael and taking up a lot of space so that they can maximize right turns and minimize left turns. Are you familiar with their proposals? And, I mean, they really haven't put together a complete proposal yet, but those plans are in the works.
Well, yes, we are very familiar with that whole process, and our understanding is that the state is not prepared to do anything here for probably 30 years at minimum. We were asked to go to the Department of Transportation, which I did with Jim Anderson, and went out there in October and visited with Mr. Metzer and 2 of his assistants and completely aired this existing situation. They told us there's no money here for 30 years. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But it's a very good question, and clearly been an issue here in Hudson for many, many years.
Not only that, I mean, in 2023, project was supposed to be done. And from the DOT, you know, back then, 20 years ago, that was like, all of a sudden, we had to find $34 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm
So
sorry, could you clarify what you just said?
we were
Councilmember?
approached, I don't know if it was 20 years ago, but at least 10 years ago, we were told they were coming up to redesign this
Sure.
whole intersection on and off. At that time, we were on the hook for it, and for $34 million.
That the city would be city of Hudson would be required
Yes.
to pay for part of that improvement to the interstate
I
highway.
don't know if it was part, it sounded like it was all, I don't recall, it was a while
So-
ago.
I think at best, we could say we get mixed messages from DOT, partly maybe because who you talk to. So you're saying that was quite a few years ago, but yet that was a serious threat or serious concern.
Because everybody, future development, our comprehensive plans all pointed to that side of this, for a plan very similar to this. And everybody was on board with it and waiting to do it. And then the DOT came in with their
Yes.
plan, and everything stopped.
I do recall it. I just didn't hear the multi-million-dollar number that you had said, so thank you for clarifying.
Don't quote me on it, but it was a big
It was a big
number,
one.
and we were on the hook
Okay.
for it, so.
And thank you. I don't mean to turn away from your presentation, but I wondered if our professional development staff has any comments or, I mean, right now, am I correct that this piece of, this acreage is not even in the city limits? Is that correct?
Correct, it would
Okay.
require annexation.
Okay, so it is not in the city, yet because we know there's interest in being part of the city and developing it further, there's been a lot of conversations. What was the most recent impression we've gotten from DOT? I know you went to DOT directly.
Well, why don't I have Jim Anderson give you just a few minutes
Sure,
on what
please.
came out of that situation.
Thank you. The question you asked, we assumed that was going to come up, and Mike Johnson and the mayor asked us to go meet with WisDOT in the fall, and we went down to Eau Claire and had about 2.5-hour meeting with 3 of them. And they laid out kind of a time schedule and how they work, okay? And it was new to me, even though I've been involved with the property, you know, for 24 years now or whatever. The first thing, they kind of started out, they were direct upfront and just open about it and kind of, you know, where they stood. And they started out with the fact that the existing overpass was built in 1990. And their replacement schedule starts like at 60, 70 years out, maybe 80 to 100 years out, depending on, you know, the whole scenario. And traffic and congestion play a relatively small role when something's fairly new, okay, is what they explained to us. The number or the year they kept using, or the decade, was 2050-ish, right? and it may be 2060, maybe 2070, okay? They were very upfront, we have no money, and they also told us that one of the issues, in this, Jerry Metzger's runs the Northwest Division of WisDOT, okay? And he said that one of the problems is that the population center's on the other side of the state. And he rattled off, I don't know, what, a half dozen projects around Madison, Milwaukee, you know, the population centers, in that's where Madison is focused. And Hudson's growing and, you know, there's congestion, but in the scheme of things, there's bigger issues, you know, with huge price tags over there. And they kept going back to this. This thing's, you know, was built in 1990. We're not going to replace it. We're not going to add on to it. And we worked on it this summer. So and then we talked about, you know, kind of that concept that was done about 10 years ago with the, you know, the clover leaf and that off-ramp that just kind of all cut across. And when you look at that plan, that's what they showed us when we went and met with them, was that 10-year-old concept. And so we got talking about the clover leaf and the, you know, off-ramp and everything. And where we basically wound up is here, I asked the question. I said, could they use less land and still get the job done? The answer was yes. Okay, can you work on that, draw something, you know, can we take a look at that and see, you know? And we were told point blank, we have no money to do that, we're not gonna do it, okay? And they also talked to us about the frontage road, okay? And I think I'm accurate on this, they were point blank. They said, we have nothing to do with the frontage road, and that's a Hudson road, it's a Hudson responsibility, and their kind of line of demarcation, and I had never heard this before, but is where the exit ramp is right now, and that light right there. And they said, beyond that, to the north or to the west, or the east, sorry, we have nothing to do with that. We did, before we went to the meeting, we took a look at reducing the size of the clover leaf to the one they proposed on the south side, which isn't there, but, you know, for future, okay? And when the north side clover leaf is reduced and the off-ramp is kind of changed a little bit, okay? It actually doesn't even need to be on any of our property, depending on its size, or very little of it. The other thing in that concept 10 years ago is, you know, how the frontage road just kind of went off like this, okay? That was just put in there for, you know, with no kind of end game in sight. And they said it 10 years ago when they did it, and they repeated it in the meeting, we don't care about the frontage road. That's something for you guys to work out with Hudson. So
We don't have anything to do with that frontage road because that's in the township right now.
well, right now, right, but WisDOT is not going to take, you know, here, I'll just put it the way it sounded to us, is they don't want anything to do with it, right? And it's back to the money thing and everything else. And like I said, that line of demarcation was interesting because I had never heard it before. And to be honest with you, I was never in a meeting like that with WisDOT, even though I was in meetings, you know, 10 years ago and 15 years ago. And we thought it was good because they were just upfront about it, and, you know, hey, this is where it is. The other thing they indicated was they've got a couple different ways to, layman's terms, tie up land for something future down the road. My words would be like a preemptive purchase or something like that. And they indicated that they haven't pursued any of those, nor do they intend to pursue any of those. And so that's why we felt pretty, you know, good about, okay, you know, if this frontage road is going to change, that's really a Hudson thing. And this provides some, you know, access to go through. Obviously, these 6 homes are going to be developed. My guess is as soon as anything happens with the rest of this, you know, those are going to be developed. And it's quite conceivable the medical campus would kind of, you know, fill in there after, you know, they're expanding this building now, and then, once these are built. In fact, Richard talked to Matt this afternoon, and I'll let you speak to that, but he was all over him about, okay, when am I going to get my buildings? So I don't know if that helps with the WSDOT, though.
Well, yeah, I wasn't aware that it was 30 years out, because that wasn't what they had said previously, but
That's how they
I know that they didn't have the money allocated, and that there wasn't a plan in place at this time.
Yeah, no, and I had never heard all that before, but that's how they started the meeting, which was that thing, the overpass was built in 1990, here's our replacement schedule. And, unfortunately, we're not in a position to help Hudson. And the years they were using was the decade of 2050 or beyond. I mean,
So the houses that are right in the center of that
Yep.
horseshoe there, has anybody talked to them and to find out what they would like and how they feel about all this?
yeah, like I said, I've been involved for I think since 2000. So I've talked to all of them. These three are owned by a realtor in town, and he's waiting for those to be developed.
Oh, okay.
And I've talked to him over the years.
So he's expecting this, okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anticipating.
Yeah, anticipating it. And then this home and this home are owned by members of the same family. And then this property here is owned by B&A, Bert Nordstrand. Okay. And so, and I've talked to, Tony Leone lives here, and then Greg Bauer lives here. And I've spoken with both of them several times over the years, and they've just been waiting for something to happen. And they know, well, in Hudson's comprehensive plan, that's commercial, so they're waiting to sell, I guess, is
Okay.
kind of the plain way to put it.
I had a second question before we went off that way. The biggest thing is I'm for this project. I'll say that right up. Problem is, and I want to work as a partnership, and you've said it now a couple of times, Jim, that's the city's problem. Well, we have a problem all along Carmichael about public safety and the traffic controls and the way that road is split up.
Right.
So what I would be looking for specifically is a partnership with the developer to help offset some costs. And we've done it before with other projects, and they've been more than willing to help with that. That's very important for any of this, I think, to move forward, is for us to address all the safety issues and the traffic control on Carmichael. But we need it as a partnership, however that looks.
No, fair enough, and I didn't mean to imply that it wouldn't be a partnership. We've known that for years. Richard knows that. And I think that's one of the reasons he mentioned, this was a first, concept type thing, and okay, things are gonna need to get tweaked, we're gonna have to work out things. We've gotta figure the traffic out. I mean, that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Right. The only reason I was saying it was Hudson's is I was just trying to delineate between WSDOT and what they were telling us. That, basically you guys, okay, us in the city, whatever you figure out or agree on or whatever, they're not going to be involved in that. That's what I was trying to communicate. But yeah, no, we know it has to be a collaborative effort, and with Mike and the mayor, they've been clear on that too. So
Thank you.
And we know that. And the other thing that we talked about a couple months ago is, of course, Carmichael going all the way up to Vine and then the school, right? There's pinch points in there, and there's going to be development up there, and so a lot has to be thought about and taken
Correct.
into account.
Yeah, exactly.
If that.
Would water and sewer run from the Hudson Physicians property to this property, or would it come across from Target?
It would all come out to Carmichael. This property would be independent.
Okay.
And we come in. That's what I said there was a set of 5 plans. These are 2 of the 5 plans that have been developed. One's a utility plan, one's water detention, one is elevation, and one is parking. So that there's a basic site, elevation, parking, utilities, et cetera. So that when we came in here, we just didn't do this on the back of a napkin. It's been given some pretty significant thought. Doesn't mean that things can't be changed, But this works. This works economically, this works in terms of detention, and it works in terms of the existing ordinances that the city of Hudson has as it relates to parking requirements and other criteria. And as I said, we've spent considerable time making sure we didn't have to move too much dirt onto this property. Yes.
So where are the water and sewer pipes right now that you would be
We'd have to
connecting
install everything.
You'd have to install everything.
Everything
Okay.
goes in, and then everything comes out to Carmichael Road. And
That old housing development was all septic
Yes.
as wells.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, there's nothing on it now.
I'm on the utility commission, and so no one outside of the city of Hudson can hook up to water and sewer in the city of Hudson. So I'm assuming that that's really why you want to annex it, so that you have access to water and sewer.
Well, there's a whole series of reasons, but
But
not the
that's a
least
big
of which.
one.
Yeah, that certainly is a big one. But I think that the conversation regarding Carmichael Road clearly is the elephant in the room. I mean, there's no question about it. And, you know, from my perspective, after 45 years of doing this, I don't think there's a perfect solution to this road by any means. There's never going to be perfect. I don't care who does it. I don't care how much
We know
money is
that.
spent. But
Working together.
there is some kind of solution. And as Jim was pointing out when he talked about the city, we recognize that the economic development here that can be coming to the city and our ability to, you know, share in those costs to make sure that, A, does it make sense, and can this body support it? That's really the whole purpose of our being here. Is there support or
And
not
not
support?
only that, there's two, well, now the existing comprehensive plan that has identified this as developable land, so
Correct.
it is part of our future,
Yes, yes.
period, you know?
A quick question, so we can kind of cross the box that the state's not gonna change anything for us for the overpass. So we don't need to wring our hands and say, well, what if it was different or whatever? So we know it is what it is right now.
I think that's right.
I wouldn't go that far,
All right,
but go ahead.
all right, thank you.
But I think that
But
that's,
but to further my question, so we talk about the overpass, at what point is there a handoff that some of those northern interchanges can be adjusted by the city, partnership with you guys? Where's the handoff between the quote-unquote overpass and Carmichael? Where does that break, where we could talk about clover leaves or roundabouts or things like that? Is that a?
want me to answer
That's
that,
a
or you want to
question.
answer
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
Mayor?
that'd be part of the negotiation with the developer on the site,
Okay.
right? You know, to the point of, you know, Carmichael being something that's been talked about for decades, you know, this conversation, a development, which I think we can all agree is an important and a big, it's a piece that we've been talking about for a long time. And if it's done correctly, we'll all be able to pat ourselves on the back and think, oh, this was a great thing to do. If done incorrectly, this decision echoes for a much longer period of time, especially when it comes down to traffic or roads or, you know, whatever the deal is. We already know what Carmichael looks like, you know, at certain hours of the day. So whatever does get done here needs to be done appropriately, correctly, and so that we can plan for future growth, not just further north or south, all those things. This is a big decision, right? These are big topics of discussion that will take time, energy, a lot of resources, and I think that's just something to kind of keep in mind as we're talking about it.
There's also lots of process to it as well.
Absolutely.
You've got annexation, you've got zoning, you have, I presume this will be,
Law studies, you have budget studies.
right, but I presume this will be some type of planned commercial development, so that has its own process to it. So there's lots of process that will have to happen. The capital cost study piece of it with the annexation is always interesting because it's really a function of what do you want to see in that area from the perspective of public improvements, you know, whether it be road improvements or drainage improvements or whatnot. So, I mean, it's not just a yes or no discussion. It's not necessarily I'm for it or against it. I think the developer is certainly looking for some feedback, but there will be lots of points of discussion along the way as part of this process.
I'd like to ask the mayor to reflect to us what your impression has been. I mean, I know you've had multiple conversations with officials from WSDOT. What's been your impression of what they're telling Hudson about that interchange?
So right now, I mean, we're hearing similar information. The dates are a little bit different, all right? So you're talking about 50 years down the road. The last conversation we had with them, they said nothing would happen until probably 2040, all right? It's a little bit sooner, that's 25 years down the road. Now, having said that, let's go back and look at the design that was originally done for this interchange, okay? And I don't even know what year that was, 2014?
2014, I believe, 2014.
I saw it in 2016, and in fact, the DOT did their open house here, and I think they had a couple nights worth of open house here, and showed everybody the plans. They said at that time that that interchange would be, they were thinking 2025, nothing before 2025. They don't spend that kind of money to lay that out, you know, to plan it, lay it out, print all this stuff up, bring their show on the road and come into town unless they were serious about doing it. So, you know, the only thing that changed realistically between then and now is the administration. Okay? So, and we know those administrations change. I would say, first of all, and this has nothing to do with, I mean, I was the one that contacted the Ericksons and Andersons and asked them to come in after our conversation with DOT because we were not happy that the DOT was now saying it's not going to be 2025, it's going to be 2040. And to me, that's like holding land hostage. So, so we called them in and said, you know, if you've got some ideas, let us know. In the meantime, we continued talking to the DOT. I would highly recommend that all the council members, some of you have seen this, would look at the traffic study that was done. I think our engineer had done this before, right? With the traffic flow between Woodbury and, help me out, is it Madison?
Madison, yeah.
Is heavier here on an average daily basis than between Milwaukee and Madison. This bridge, Carmichael Bridge, has more traffic than almost every other bridge in the state. I think it ranks like 5th.
Yeah, it's up there. Yep.
Like 5th for traffic. We know the congestion here. We know the traffic here. DOT knows the traffic here, all right? I mean, those are some compelling numbers. So when we asked them, what do you intend to do here and why the delay? They told us, and they said this, we asked them every time we met with them, it was 3 times. The first time we heard this, we were incredulous, I certainly was. To the extent that the next 2 times we met with them, we said, you have to repeat this. I didn't put it that way, but, you know, more or less. And they said, for us to come in before 2040 with our current formulas right now, someone will have to die on the ramps or on the bridge. And they literally said someone will have to die. And so, you know, knock on wood, but, you know, when's that going to happen, right? So, and when things change, administrations change, and priorities change. But clearly, this was a priority for the DOT 10 years ago, 15 years ago, to the extent that they actually drew up plans for it, spent the money, all the expense and all of that, knowing that, I mean, if they had the intention that nothing was going to happen until 2040, why even go through that process? Because everything changes. Traffic is going to change. Modes of transportation are going to change. Everything changes. But here's the most troublesome piece to all of this, our discussions with the DOT, is that the number that I remember them using way back when was they might need 15 of those acres. And so when we asked them, they said, do you realize, because I told them, I contacted the DOT and told them that we had had conversations with the Ericksons, the Andersons, and that we were encouraging development. And they said, you realize, of course, that if and when we come in and do this project, not if, but when, and we need to take that land and there is construction, if there are buildings there, they will have to be destroyed, and the business is relocated, and that will be at the cost of the city. Now, that's troublesome. So we don't have an answer to that yet, but we want that in writing, all right? We want to either, they're gonna hold us harmless, or they are going to make us pay for the removal of those buildings. So that's kind of where we're at.
Is that the $36 million that Randy was
No,
referring to?
and actually, I didn't want to interrupt there. I'd heard the cost was like 30-some million, but that we would have to pay half of it. I thought we were gonna be on the hook for like 15.
I don't remember, it was obnoxious a number, but it was a lot.
And that was in 2016, 2017 construction dollars.
Is that 15 acre parcel you're talking about, is that clearly defined by them? Or do they just kind of say, I'll show you what it's
It's a
gonna be when I
concept.
come in? It's a
Yeah,
concept.
there's a
So
concept.
we can't point to it on
Well,
the.
it's on the plan, but it showed it on the plan. But it has to be in writing with the developer, I would
Yeah.
assume, that when the process goes further
Oh,
down.
absolutely, absolutely. Would I love to see this project? Absolutely. You've heard us talk about a health campus and the expansion of the Hudson Physicians onto this property going south for continuation of some of the work that they're doing and the things that they would, health professions, buildings that they would bring into Hudson would be monumental. It would be great. So, I mean, we're, and keep in mind, we were the ones that contacted these guys to come on in, let's sit down and talk.
And I have heard this, the more of the specialty clinics that we can bring into the community, it is a big relief that they don't have to drive into the cities, that they
Right.
can go to these specialty clinics here in town.
Yeah, and they certainly will draw from the eastern edge of the Twin
Yeah.
Cities, north and south and eastern, no doubt.
Sure.
Richard, I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. I'm happy that, like I said, it is the elephant in the room. We know it. So the reason I came in here tonight with Jim and the others was to do exactly what we did. Because if the issue continues to be that Carmichael Road prohibits this from occurring in any reasonable time frame of 12, 18, 24 months, then it's one of those projects that'll get, for the better good of the city, if that's what the city wants to do, is wait until something happens on the bridge, then I know what I have to do. I need that direction from.
Well, I would say what we're, hoping for right now is conversation again with the DOT to get some clarification on their statement about having to, at city's cost, remove those buildings if they do come in or when they do come in.
Yeah, I can't.
50 years. Pardon me? And is it 50 years?
Well, yeah, and you know what, and clearly, I have no faith in what the DOT is saying right now. We need this in writing. They're not gonna put in writing that they're not going to construct anything for 50 years. There's no way, because that changes with administrations, we know that.
Right.
Their priorities change with administrations. But to get them to sign off on, they will hold us harmless if there's any type of development there.
I agree with that, but I would like to see them move forward with the process of
Sure.
annexation.
I think the owners of the property, Richard, it's your group that would be purchasing the property. I would think that you'd want that, well, maybe you wouldn't. We do. We want that hold harmless agreement from the state.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. What I'm most concerned about, and I don't know if legal counsel has a opinion for you, and not that I need it from you tonight, I don't. But from my perspective, again, I'm more than happy to move it forward, but what I'm concerned about is that it's the quagmire of Carmichael Road, which has been a quagmire here for many, many years. So, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have a specific question about that, because a major grocery store, of course, is going to have a lot of traffic. What are you suggesting for the egress? Is there going to be different entrance and exit there?
Well, ingress and egress to the property is clearly critical, okay? So let me take a
Yes,
minute
and
and
I
just
may just
explain
not be
it,
seeing
okay?
it from here.
So there was a stoplight approved and obviously a major development. Can you see it from here or not? Can you?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yes.
So it's got one traffic signal here. There's an access point here in the middle directly across the street from the Walgreens, just south of this 5-acre property that Doubletree owns. This is a fully designed interchange right now. You have left turn lanes and right turn deceleration lanes accessing this. Our perspective is we'd like to see a stoplight here, and then these stoplights tied together. Now, in all the defense of the city, this has been raised by different traffic consultants over the years, not the least of which was the one that was done for Hudson Physicians when that was put in here. But I'm not sure that's the solution that the city wants. So that's part of the issue. We have thought about access. We've thought about access to these 6 homes. We've enhanced it. This is the same access they would have today, but they would also have access through the roundabout and be able to access these 6 homes here, or they could come in off of Carmichael. So they have enhanced access. If we don't have a traffic signal here to handle particularly the truck traffic, you got about 30 major trucks that's going to come to a supermarket like this that needs to get back out onto Carmichael and out to I-94 to head back to the Twin Cities. So we are fully cognizant that traffic is a big, big issue.
There's another issue, though, with putting another traffic signal in there. They're all too close together, and that makes problems. We've already got that problem on the south end part of
I get it.
Carmichael.
I understand. That's what I'm saying, that I think that the solution to the problem is truly up to the city council. It's not up to me. I mean, we can certainly recommend or do all the solutions that we want, but ultimately, I don't think there is a perfect solution to this. But that's one man's opinion. So again, the guidance I'm looking for, and that's why I'm appreciative of having this conversation. Because if really this is a bigger issue that has to get resolved, and the mayor raised one, that if he's on the hook, or the city's on the hook for paying, if we start to build buildings down here and the state takes the position they do, and that's a legal position, I don't know if it is or it isn't, that's a huge consideration for the city.
Well, and there may be some better design so that the existing traffic lights will be the ingress and egress for the property.
It could be. I mean, there's been various discussions about eliminating, and we've had the conversation about eliminating the frontage road at this point and letting the frontage road come through this development, which would then modify some of what you see on the plan. Again, it doesn't necessarily help getting back out onto Carmichael Road because everybody can't come through this roundabout. It'll never handle it all.
No.
So again, without belaboring it, all that I need from the council, not tonight, but if you think about where the council wants to go with this particular project, it would assist me as to what I need to do, and I'd love to do business in Hudson. I like the town. I've been nosing around here for a couple of years and came across this almost a year ago, or at least got serious with the Double Play folks about a year ago. So we'd love to do it, but if it really is something that the city has a broader perspective on, I need to understand that.
So,
Like you
yeah,
wanna say
I do. I just have a quick question. So to help provide guidance, you had mentioned the Department of Transportation in another meeting, getting a better sense. Is that something the city would facilitate with the developer, or is that something that
conversation.
you would? Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, so thank you very much.
Richard, thank you.
Thank you. And all I ask is if in 2 weeks or whenever somebody can get back to me sooner rather than later, I would appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much for all of your time. I'm going to leave you with a set of plans, if that's okay. But I got a set of 5 plans for each one of you that I'm going to leave you with. So with that, thanks again for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. I think we'll give you a couple minutes to get your stuff down because we have a public hearing here. Yeah, please.
All right.
being here tonight. And an effort. Thank you.
Yeah, I got them.
Yep. I'll take a set if you've got an extra one. Thank you.
I don't need it.
You don't under mine.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'll pass this on.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Been on there for quite a few years now. Okay, yeah, I'll be looking at it. Good.
It's a big chunk of land.
All right. Public hearing for ordinance 1-24 to rezone St. Croix County tax parcel 236-1211-00-000 from L1 Light Industrial to B3 Central Business. This is a public hearing. It's your opportunity to comment on this issue. If you have something that a comment that you would like to say, once again, if you would please come up to the podium, identify yourself, give your address. Try to keep your comments brief. Please try not to repeat other people's comments. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
I see two.
All right, we have 2 people on Zoom. They may not be here for this public hearing, but if you are for either of the public hearing, or just the one public hearing that okay, if you're here for the public hearing, just electronically raise your hand and we will get to you. Same thing, please identify yourself and your address. Keep your comments brief. Having said all that, does anybody have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Ordinance 1-24 to rezone St. Croix County tax parcel 1211-00-000 from L1 Light Industrial to B3 Central Business.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Ruck?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Rules are suspended.
Move to approve ordinance 1-24.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the December 4th, 2023 regular council meeting. Approve claims in the amount of $1,913,876. Approve Rotary St. Croix River Dunk. Renew contract with Cody Plumbing Incorporated. Renew contract with Maelstrom Inspections. Approve purchase of new portable radios. Approve TAPCO and Neo Electrical Solutions quotes for the 2024 downtown APS project. Approve the final development plans for the Hudson Physicians Lot 2 at 2662 Hillcrest Drive, Hudson Medical Center. Approve the conditional use permit amendment for a 24-hour indoor recreational facility at 1450 Swayze Street, Las Campeones Gym. Approve Hudson Police Patrol Officers Association side letter of agreement. Approve Hudson Police Sergeants Association side letter of agreement. 2023 Building Inspector's Annual Report.
I'd like to have that pulled from the consent agenda.
Approve the letter of engagement with Market and Johnson in the amount of $15,900 to perform a property condition assessment of the potential public works facility. And approve the letter of engagement with Market and Johnson in the amount of $14,900 to perform a property condition assessment of the potential police department facility.
Move to approve with the exception of L.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda with the exception of item L. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Ruck?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Item L.
Yes, item L, thank you. Well, sometimes I like to bring something off the consent agenda because I think it's just worth discussion and worth information for the public. This is an item that I don't think has gone before a committee, so it hasn't really been discussed. But I wondered if Mr. David Gray is here, if he'd mind coming to the podium, because I just think it's noteworthy to hear a little summary about your report. I don't have a query or a particular question for you, but I wondered if you'd just be willing to give a little summary. I appreciate both the written summary and the, the spreadsheet, the data table that you gave us. So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm David Gray, building inspector. Rhett Borner and myself have been working in the city, obviously. Rhett has been on for about 8 years now. The takeaway from my report is really the fact that the city of Hudson, the construction in the city is kind of evolving. When I first started, my activity was new homes, one new home to the next. Obviously, as things progress, things change. Currently, we're not building a lot of new homes. Really, you'd have to go back to 1990s to see, the few amount of homes that we are building. But I want you to know that we're still busy. Obviously, people are struggling with affording interest rates of new homes and the price of new homes, so they're deciding to modify the homes that they're in. A lot of times that could be finished basements, new garages, decks. What we're also seeing is a lot of green industry, EV chargers, solar systems. That's a lot of commonplace in today's market. Commercially, we're seeing a fewer number of new buildings, but obviously there is activity still. The U-Line project, that was a good portion of our activity this year. Institutionally, the government center project, that's also a lot of our time is being spent there. Looking forward, I see a lot more tear downs. We're seeing more tear downs these days. Just goes to reinforce the fact that people want to be in the city. They're finding properties that can be redeveloped into something more. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I was just interested in, again, your years of experience and seeing what's gone on in the past. And we all do know there is a little bit of an economic slowdown. Interest rates are affecting people's decision, but I think just, again, appreciate your perspective on it, and that we do want to be friendly to development. Business development, economic development in Hudson is important for various reasons, but obviously it builds our tax base as well as providing jobs and so on. And so again, thank you I sprung that on you. Usually I give people heads up on the staff if I'm going to ask a question. So thank you, David. I appreciate your report, and I move that we accept it.
Second.
On a motion and second to approve, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action to approve preliminary resolution 1-24 declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the downtown sidewalk replacement project.
Hello, Erin McPhee Anderson, the city engineer. So the next 4 items are very similar. It's just the start of the assessment process for all projects that are going on in 2024. So this first one is to go over the preliminary resolution to exercise the special assessment powers under section 66.0703 with Wisconsin state statutes. And this one is for the downtown sidewalk replacement project. So this is just the first step in the assessment process. So once this is approved, we will move on to an engineering study and more cost estimates, assessment calculations, and so forth. If you want me to go into more details, I can. Otherwise, I was just giving a general overview.
We don't need to suspend the rules for a resolution,
No.
is that correct? Move to approve Resolution 1-24.
Second that?
Motion is second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action to approve preliminary resolution 2-24 declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the 2024 alley project.
Move to approve Resolution 2-24.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion?
I'm just going to abstain because this is my alleyway.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action to approve preliminary resolution 3-24 declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the 2024 Vine Street reconstruction project.
Move to approve Resolution 3-24.
Second that?
We got a motion and second to approve. Any discussion?
I'm recusing from that vote.
Okay. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action to approve preliminary resolution 4-24 declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes for the 2024 Green Street reconstruction project. What?
I'll move to approve Resolution 4-24.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Closed session pursuant to 19.85 sub 1 sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, potential purchase of property for police department, and B, closed session pursuant to 19.85 sub 1 sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, potential purchase of property for public works department.
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion second to go into closed session. Roll call.
Wakefield, Morissette.
Yes.
Wakefield.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Brock.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved. We're going into closed session. Step across the hall. Session. There a motion? No, there is no motion. There's no motion. All right, so, I don't have any, there is one announcement. So, in order to, I guess, finish up on the business that we were in closed session for, we will have a special council meeting on Thursday at 5:30 here in the chambers. And we'll go from there on the two items that you saw that we were in closed session for. Other than that, I don't have anything, other than, I know that people want to go home and watch their DVR.
I just want to mention the passing of former Mayor
Oh,
Jack
thank you.
Brill.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
know about that.
I just, the passing of former Mayor Jack Brill, who was here a long time and was very dedicated to the community.
14 years as mayor, and how many years as council?
I'm not sure.
Probably another 12 or
County
something. I
and
think. Yeah, great guy.
He came to my rummage sale one time with his girlfriend, and he grilled me on all the stuff that was going on at the council.
Real loss. Real loss.
All right, thank you for that, Randy. Appreciate it.
move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday.